Drew Brees, the Saints, should be giving Taysom Hill 10 to 12 quarterback snaps per game. Ladies and gentlemen, this is WWL with an interview with the GOAT, Drew Brees, at the second annual New Orleans Picklefest, which I didn't make up, and also doesn't involve Jerkins. So, Drew Brees is a huge pickleball guy. Apparently there is a thing called Picklefest, and we're going to hear what Drew has to say about, hopefully, less about pickles and more about the Saints.
Tell me where you think the Saints are at.
I mean, look, our division's wide open, right?
Yeah.
But our division's been wide open for the last 2 or 3 years,
yeah.
right?
True.
I think what I haven't seen is just consistency. You know,
True.
I'd say
True.
last year, look, we finished the year playing great, but unfortunately we were in too big of a hole that we weren't able to pull out of it. I think you want to feel like, number one, each and every week you're getting a little bit better, or you're playing, you kind of know what your bread and butter is. Like, you know what your identity is.
Oh, bread and butter pickles. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended. I'll say this about Drew. So, this is controversial yet brave. A lot of people say Drew should be an offensive coordinator, Drew should be a coach. I don't think so. I've never believed that. What I do believe, Drew has a master's level, highest possible level of knowledge. How about this mannequin in the back? She's absolutely stacked. What Drew does know is how a season should feel, how a locker room should feel, how a schedule should feel to a team, what teams should be doing. Drew did orchestrate, arguably, one of the best offenses, the top 3 offense for about 20 years in New Orleans. So he understands, like, when he says, you should be getting better every week or things like that, that is what I take very seriously when I hear it from Drew. But the leadership stuff, the quarterback mentality, things like that, you cannot find from any more of an expert than Drew Brees.
Identity is, you know what you're kind of leaning on, right? And I'd say over the last couple of years, we've had certainly a top 10, if not a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
As long as we can stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
Up front, look, I love our offensive line, but we got to stay healthy, right?
Wait, you say you love our offensive line too? Come on, that's you sugar.
I played with all these guys. Look,
No,
those guys were young guys when I was.
You didn't
when
play
I
with
was
Trevor Penny.
No.
You got look. We replaced 3 new starters. Cesar Ruiz up and coming. Now McCoy the center, but McCoy ain't no Max Unger. And look. So that's why. I mean, look at Jari Evans, Carl Nix. I look at Teron Armstead, Drew. Come on, be honest. We don't have that kind of offensive line.
Here's the thing. You can.
Hebert shooting it straight. Bobby, good stuff from Bobby there.
You can
make them look better.
You work together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you can't be standing back there for 5 seconds and expect them to block that long. You can't. The better you are in the pass game, the more that you can sustain drives, the more you wear down a defense, the more you're able to dent the defense in the run game. Like, all these things, they work together. You know.
Yeah.
I will say, and I think Drew and some really great quarterbacks do kind of take that for granted, in a sense of, like, Drew can make any offensive line look okay. Tom Brady could make any offensive line look okay. The Buccaneers had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, maybe the worst, one of Brady's last season, and it didn't matter because Brady got the ball out so quick. But a regular quarterback, that's not the case. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, even like the way that they see the defenses and they understand and can anticipate what's happening, how they move the lines around, like, they think, or I think they have a tendency to think that it's just kind of commonplace. For other quarterbacks who are not at that level, the balance swings to where the balance of how much does Drew Brees need an offensive line versus how much an offensive line needs Drew Brees. When it comes to a player like Derek Carr or a lot of other average quarterbacks, it swings to where the emphasis is on that quarterback needs the offensive line to be good much more versus a Brees or even like an Aaron Rodgers or someone like that.
Yeah, and Drew, and I've said this about like the Drew Brees of the world or the top quarterbacks, that you can make the offensive line better than what they really are.
Yeah,
just
true.
by getting rid of the ball, knowing where to go with the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like,
said that.
all of a sudden, oh, watch out, you're going to, and the ball's coming out. You might say, well, he took a sack, the quarterback. Well, I look at it, I go, well, he should have got rid of the ball. See, I think
sacks. That's true. Bobby must be listening to the channel. I've said it for a long time now, and people have a really hard time. 2 things I say all the time that people have a really difficult time grasping. is that turnovers are random and sacks should be a quarterback stat. Sacks are usually a quarterback issue and not an offensive line issue. But again, that's high level stuff.
At times when you always want to hit that splash play, that chunk play, take what the defense gives you. So also Derek Carr can help the offensive line be better, even though you don't have across the board like the Jari Evans, Teron Armsteads.
Yeah, look, bottom line is offensively, you have to be able to control the line of scrimmage, and you do that through being able to run the football. And that doesn't mean that you're getting these huge splash plays. That could just be,
positive yards.
3 and 4 yards, just dent the defense, use the passing game as an extension of the run game, which was a hallmark of our offense.
That is something that I certainly pushed for last year, but that is a very new age kind of thinking. And I think Payton was a visionary. Sean Payton, not Peyton Manning. Sean Payton was a visionary with that, where 20 years ago, first down, you run the football, and you're hoping to get 3-4 yards, set up 2nd and 6. A lot of coaches then decided, well, actually, why don't we do a passing play that the ceiling is much higher. The ceiling for a big-time play through the air is much higher. And as long as we complete it, we're probably going to get 4 or 5 yards, which is the same as what we're trying to do with the run. So why not just throw it? And if we have a high-efficiency pass, which you started seeing a lot more of these super high-efficient short to mid-range routes, then we don't have to worry about it. If our efficiency level is 70%, let's just say, and we're kind of going on a tangent here, but if our efficiency level is 70% at completing this pass, and if we run the ball, and 70% of the time we'll pick up 4 yards, why wouldn't we just throw it? And so you start to see much more of that. You start to see the extension of the pass game, or the passing game being an extension of the run game. And sometimes the passing game completely replace the running game. And Brees is right. That was an absolute hallmark of what they did on offense.
With Sean Payton, right? I mean, so much of those throws were, it's getting the ball out of our hands. There's nothing more demoralizing for a defensive line than all of a sudden you feel like, I beat my guy. I put together a great move or a counter move, and I'm right on the quarterback, and he gets the ball out of his hands, right? So in my mind, I was thinking to myself, I'm not taking a sack on this drive. I'm getting the ball out of my hands because I want the D-line to recognize that, no matter how good I play or how fast I get to the quarterback, he's going to get the ball out, so it's not making a difference.
And then they're frustrated.
Yeah, then they're frustrated.
Yeah, they're frustrated as hell. I mean, you can, like Brees just said, like, imagine a defensive end. Imagine someone like a superstar defensive end. Like right now, imagine a TJ Watt or Micah Parsons. And imagine them firing off their best move, absolutely destroy the tackle, and they look up and the ball's already gone. And they're just completely taken out of the game. That is what Brees is talking about. Like, that is, you have to do that. That's imperative. And that's not on the offensive line. That is on the quarterback.
Frustrated.
And to a certain extent, the offensive coordinator, whoever's calling plays.
Right, and you can change their mentality. Now, if you want to feed their ego, right, and allow them to get negative plays and allow them to make these kind of game-killing drive plays.
Hold on to the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, I like this Kubiak offense. I mean, I've always loved the Shanahan offense, right?
Yes.
So I think our ability to run the ball with this zone scheme, I think it's going to open up all kinds of throwing lanes. I think these two receivers,
Chris Olave,
Olave and Shaheed need to have. I think they need to show as much consistency in the intermediate passing game as their ability to make the big splash.
Oh, that's for sure, especially in this offense. This offense is going to ask them to be much more in the intermediate route tree and then get the yak and have the explosive plays. We're going to do a lot more of that than we are of them just taking the top off the defense, because this offense does not want Carr taking these long dropbacks and holding the ball in the pocket, and it's not a long route, long developing play kind of offense. So it will be mostly short to intermediate routes, and then it's up to them to be dynamic and get that yak, which this offense does want.
Well, Drew, that was one thing, and I took pride in this too. You talk about the short pass play. Just be accurate as a quarterback. To me, if you ever think, he could throw the country mile, no, that doesn't matter. Be accurate, so the yards after the catch, so you're hitting them in stride, maybe away from the defender. It might have been an 8-yard throw. All of a sudden, it's a 15-yard gain. just being accurate with the football, to me, that's the number one thing that I've noticed with any quarterback. It's good that you can extend plays with your feet and all that, but you still have to be accurate. It doesn't matter that you can't throw it 80 yards. So that does, you got to be accurate with the football.
Here's the thing. Accuracy to me is trust and anticipation, right? So,
Definitely anticipation. Anticipation is probably the highest part of that.
so if you trust
And don't forget, guys, I won multiple 3-on-3 flag football intramural championships.
the guys you're throwing to, you trust in the system, you're able to anticipate, based on your preparation and your game plan, then that's when accuracy comes. And you hit guys in stride, you give them the ability to front up the defense and make plays. Look, we have playmakers. I think we have playmakers all over the place.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
now it's, man, can we stay healthy enough up front?
Right.
And then develop the confidence throughout the course of a game where, hey, we're playing complementary football on both sides. We can develop a lead. Now all of a sudden you call plays with different level of confidence. You throw the ball with a different level of confidence. It's that's kind of the world we want to live in.
Well, and I look at like an Alvin Kamara. Okay. To me, and I look Clint Kubiak and the 49ers, Shanahan and all what they do, there's no reason why you couldn't run the same type plays with Alvin Kamara that you did with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, it's going to be the same.
Hurry, save, and get more faves during
What the
Kohl's
hell?
biggest clearance event.
I
Save
just
up to
got
70% on
absolutely tricked. Yeah, it will be similar as far as like what they ask of Kamara. Will the results be the same? No. He's not Christian McCaffrey. But what he's going to be asked to do is the same. And luckily he does have the skill set to do that. And I've said this before, but like we do have the pieces that fit schematically into what Kubiak wants to do. If we had a Brandon Jacobs type back, some big bruiser, a Jerome Bettis type back, that'd be a bit of an issue because he's not going to be running routes. But Kamara should be able to do exactly what Kubiak or what Shanahan has asked Christian McCaffrey to do.
And that's why they say, like people will say, well, Bobby, but Kamara's getting old and all that. I said, I don't know. I watched him in OTAs and minicamp and seen his bursts and all that. 29, 30 years of age. No, he looks a lot younger to me. And so I think those type places, and they tell us, well,
age is like the salary cap. It's always an issue until it's not. Like no one is saying anything about Christian McCaffrey's age, right? And Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara aren't that different in age. But what's the difference? Christian McCaffrey was really good last year. No one's saying anything about Raheem Mostert's age because he was really good last year. Like when players are really good, no one talks about the age. When players are not great, they throw age out there. It's the same with like salary cap. People talk about salary cap until you sign a free agent. Until it's an issue or until it's not an issue, people love to talk about it and throw it out there. But I don't think age, until it actually shows itself and like injuries, deterioration, things like that, like age is just a buzzword that people throw out there.
Alvin Kamara hasn't really run well. I said, well, they got to give him an opportunity to start. He didn't forget how to run with his instinct. So I know you're a Kamara fan.
Yeah.
To be able to, like when you had, where there was like Reggie Bush. And I even look at Darren Sproles as a better version of Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
And all those type weapons. So, again, you got to stay healthy. But with Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr now being familiar with the team that he's on, he's going to have success. How would you view Derek? Because, it's always like, what have you done for him lately? What are you going to do this season? That I think Derek Carr, I'm not saying in top 5 or whatever, but Derek Carr is a legitimate starting quarterback, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, there's no question. And I've seen Derek Carr operate. Like, this goes back to his early years with the Raiders and with John Gruden. Like, that John Gruden offense is not an easy offense, right? It's basically our offense, but I would argue even wordier. I think Gruden had a tendency to make it super wordy and put a ton on the quarterback. And I would watch those primetime games where everybody's mic'd up, and I would listen to Carr. I would watch him. I know what he's looking for. You know enough about these teams now where when they get to the ball and it's a check with me situation, and then based on what the defense is doing, here's where I'm going. And man, I sensed a confidence, and I sensed that, like, hey, I can read this. I know what I'm doing. I'm getting us into the right play. I've seen that guy play some incredible games. And
I think Carr is football smart. I think his IQ is pretty high. I agree with Brees there. Like I have no doubt in my mind Carr can understand, operate a complex offense
and step up in some really, really clutch moments. Here he comes to a new team with new personnel, new environment. And look, last year, like I said, I think for the whole team was just somewhat inconsistent.
Yeah.
But now we come into this year, he's got a year with this team and with this personnel under his belt. He's got a system now that is incorporating, I think, the best of what he's done in the past, incorporated with, I think, the best of what this system brings over from the Niners.
San Fran.
Yeah. Complemented with a great defense that has great leadership and I think is poised to have, you know, another kind of top 10, top 5 type year.
Well,
I think Drew just he brought up a great point where, and I think if we reframed how people view last year with the Saints this way, it kind of changes things. Right now, there's a tendency with Saints fans to call last year like a disaster and to call last year the worst season that they've ever been a part of. I've read comment after comment after comment in my videos, on Reddit, on Twitter, whatever, of Saints fans full doomer saying that last year was like they can't take it anymore. They cannot take a season like last season. It destroyed them. It ruined their life basically. If you reframe that, and instead of saying that it was the worst thing you ever saw and all that, instead if you say the Saints were just inconsistent, because they were more inconsistent than they were really bad. Again, they were 9-8, tied for the division, almost won the division, lost on a tiebreaker. They weren't really bad. They were whatever it was, a top 12 scoring offense and a top 12 or top 10 defense and middle of the road, winning season, 9-8, again, tied for the division lead, all that stuff. They weren't really bad, but they absolutely were really inconsistent. So if you look at the Saints last year and you frame it as they were an inconsistent team who now is trying to find some consistency, I think it does give you a little bit more of a positive spin on this upcoming season versus saying the Saints are one of the worst teams ever last year and now we're trying not to be the worst team ever again.
Always have outstanding special teams.
Yes.
You know, when you flipping the field, the hidden yardage and all that, we're always like top 5, so that has to continue. Mm-hmm. But what needs to continue is that we need to humble Sean Payton for leaving and going to Denver. Drew, so when you look at that atmosphere, I mean, some people might show appreciation and cheer.
That Broncos game is going to be insane. I'll tell you that right now. Thursday night footballs are always crazy. Last year, Thursday night football was the Jaguars game. I was absolutely loose as a goose that game. I don't know why primetime games hit diffy, but they certainly do. And, I mean, that was a tough one for the boy. I'll tell you that. But this year, man, my God, I can't even imagine what the Dome's going to be like with the Broncos in town on Thursday night, Peyton's return. It's going to be crazy. That'll be a game right there. If you want to feel the atmosphere, if you want to feel the full Dome experience, I would advise going to that game.
But they'll have a few people that might maybe want to boo them or might cheer them, but then they want us to whip them. So, I mean, I put it this way. I like our situation better with the Saints than I think he has a bigger challenge in Denver.
Hell yeah, the Broncos are terrible. The Broncos and the Patriots are probably the two worst teams in the NFL.
Then we do it here in New Orleans.
Well, you didn't have the same quarterback.
Yeah.
Look, he's got some choices. I think he really likes Bo Nix.
Yeah, but he said Bo Nix is like reminds the young Drew Brees. I go, you better slow your roll. A lot of people saw him play at Auburn. No, and it was different what he did with the Oregon Ducks. So you got to slow your roll there. Sean stroking Bo Nix a little too
Pause.
much before he actually does something.
Drew, one of the things.
I don't hate Nix, offensive rookie of the year. Last I looked, it was like 14-1, something like that. I don't hate that idea.
That stays consistent, though. You talked about this offense fitting. Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
I think that's a guy. Bob and I've talked about this so often. You got to get the ball in his hands more.
We're not saving him for nothing anymore.
Hey, let's.
You do, but it's so difficult, man. Like I like Taysom as much as the next guy. I mean, I think Taysom's awesome. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I think he's great, but it is unique where the idea of like getting the ball in his hands more, like what exactly does that look like? Because it's the same problem we had last year with Taysom, where like in the comments, like what would you do? How many receptions, how many carries, how many whatever do you think he should get? Because if you say 15 to 20, it's like we don't run that many plays. you also have to get the ball to Kamara. You also have to get the ball to Chris Olave. You also have to get the ball to Rashid Shaheed. You also have, there's a lot happening. So to try and figure out how you're actually going to get the ball in his hands that much, it's very difficult. So, I mean, off the top of, I think maybe 10 touches sounds about right, but that even seems high. Like, if I say 10 touches, you're talking what? 7 carries and 3 catches or something like that. That seems like a lot. Like that seems like a pretty substantial amount of him getting the ball. So I think once you remove Taysom as a quarterback, which I think he is removed from playing quarterback now, all of a sudden then it's like, how much do you sacrifice of your offense? How much do you get him the ball? Is it 10? Are you trying to get him that like 7 carries, 3 catches, 6 carries, 4 catches kind of world? Is that it? I don't know. I mean, I think he is good in this offense because of our lack of depth. Like, we have a lack of depth, obviously, at tight end and running back. Jamal Williams looked good, but running back at times, wide receiver at times. So the fact that he can kind of fill in that gap to where we don't need an extra tight end, or we don't need an extra wide receiver, we don't need an extra running back because we have Taysom. That part is good, but at the end of the day, it's like how much do you force getting the ball to your third best option running back and your fourth-ish best option at wide receiver and your second-ish best option at tight end? Like, he's dynamic, yes, but I think trying to force in the ball too much can be a problem too.
Do this little exercise. This will be fun. if we could, if we could go back in time. Obviously, he got here in 2017, and none of us had ever seen anything like it.
Right.
And he played a little bit of everything that year, but it wasn't until 2018 where it's like, man, we can really start to incorporate this guy at quarterback, do a lot of these, QB runs or read
QB power,
or just let him launch it, right?
Yeah,
the guy can launch it.
Yeah.
I don't know why we haven't lived in a world where Taysom Hill is getting 10 to 12 snaps a game at quarterback. This is a little bit of an exercise of.
So you're saying that he should every game get that at least?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It just seems like so much. I mean, it seems like so much. It is so much. I mean, and this, this is the problem, right? If you have Derek Carr and you pay Derek Carr and he's your franchise quarterback, 10 to 12 snaps of Taysom at quarterback and Carr on the sidelines, that's kind of it sounds good in theory, but it's like horrible in practice. It's horrible in a practical sense. Especially if you're talking about Taysom not really throwing the ball. Like, if Taysom's just a wildcat quarterback and you're doing that 10, 12 times a game, If he is throwing the ball and he's doing that 10, 12 times a game, then why the hell did you go get Derek Carr? You might as well just get someone like Joe Flacco or something. Go get Flacco. Go get a player like that on a super cheap deal and then split him and Taysom. You could do that. If that's what you're trying to do, okay, that's a risky business. But that makes more sense to me than getting a Derek Carr and then also having Taysom play 10 to 12 snaps at quarterback per game. And like I've said a million times, Taysom playing quarterback is a disservice to Taysom because he's so dynamic. You want him moving around. You want to play the mismatches. You want him lined up at running back, lined up at wide receiver, lined up at tight end. You want him everywhere to confuse the defense. If he's playing quarterback, the defense can account for him. The defense can kind of figure things out a little bit easier if he's there. So I've never liked the idea of Taysom mostly being quarterback. Obviously, another problem would be if he played 10 to 12 snaps at quarterback per game. Are you also not going to throw in the ball? Are you also not going to run him out of the backfield? And if you do that kind of stuff, now he's touching the ball like 20-something times a game. And that's way too much.
Right?
Yes.
Because that puts more pressure on the defense, right? More to have to prepare for.
If you want to go and you want to chart the plays where he's in and he's playing quarterback, and you just chart what the result of the play, and then you match that up with the rest of the plays, I would argue that some of our most successful plays consistently are when Taysom Hill's a quarterback. Now, I'm not sitting here
that.
saying, hey, there should be a quarterback controversy.
Right.
Taysom Hill should be the starter. But what I'm saying is that there is a tremendous value.
A package, yeah.
When he is playing quarterback. Number one, it's just you can't argue the results. The proof.
I would argue that, but because Taysom doesn't throw the ball, so if you're saying that our best plays on average are when he is running the ball out of the quarterback position, then my argument, my devil's advocate to that would be. By the way, do y'all know where devil's advocate came from, or what it means? A little sidebar here. I'm getting smarter watching the channel. When someone is a saint, when someone is put up for sainthood, they have a devil's advocate. They choose a devil's advocate whose job is to argue against the beatification, word of the day, of the proposed saint. And that is the term devil's advocate. So the devil's advocate is whoever is chosen or voted on or whatever to argue against the case of a saint. So there you go. But pushback on what Drew's saying is that if that is the best plays, then instead of like Taysom, the idea of him playing quarterback, why wouldn't we just replace the running game with Taysom running out of the quarterback position? Because if what Drew is saying is that if you charted the plays and they were most successful out of that formation, which I don't think they are, then that would push you towards saying like, well, then why the hell are we running the ball out of the backfield? Why the hell are we running with running back? Why don't we just alternate Derek and Taysom? And then a majority of our runs, if not all of our runs, will be Taysom out of the quarterback position. And you may say, well, then they'll know it's coming. No, they won't, because he's out of the quarterback position. He can throw the football, So that would be my next step to that, because Taysom doesn't throw the ball enough for a chart of plays to show that Taysom throwing the ball or playing quarterback, whatever, is your best plays.
Is in the pudding. The results show that that's when we're getting the best yard per play and these other things, and probably big play opportunities. But also for a defense, think about for a defensive coordinator, the amount of time you have to spend in a week of preparation to get your guys ready for the Taysom Hill package. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. Because if you get into a game and Taysom Hill plays quarterback 7 plays and just wreaks havoc on you for 5 of those, you might get fired.
Yeah, well, he's done that like Bill Belichick, and the Patriots couldn't stop him in the red zone.
And they knew it was coming.
Yeah, and it's like all of a sudden you call him the wife or the family and said, I'm asleep at the office tonight, because they were the extra preparation after Taysom Hill.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying when I said, hey, do this exercise and step back in time, there's never been a time in history in NFL that I can think of where you had a guy like that was literally coming in for, call it 10 plus games or plays a game at quarterback and executing that type of offense, or was that type of weapon.
Well, and Drew, I look at him now, they're going to utilize him. I mean, now you get up in age and say, we're not saving Taysom Hill for nothing. We might run him into the ground, whatever, but this season, now we got to take advantage. However many touches he gets, targets, whatever, whether you have him in the slot or whether you have him at quarterback, and just give the defense more to work on, and I'm sure Derek Carr would welcome that.
Yeah.
He should definitely be out there. I mean, I definitely agree. He should be out there, and a Taysom Hill involved package is the best kind of package. Because, it's hard to plan for. You don't know you can't account for him because you don't know what he's doing. So I do agree with that. But that's very different than saying, he should be touching the ball 20-something times a game. That's very different than saying he should be playing quarterback 15 times a game, or he should run the ball 20 times a game. Those are kind of contradicting thoughts. But I definitely think he should be on the field. I think he should be on the field way more. And that was the thing with Carmichael, where I don't think he utilized him enough as, I don't want to say a decoy, but I don't think he utilized him enough as just in packages. Every time Taysom was on the field last year, we knew what he was doing. He was doing the RPO, and he was just running the quarterback power. It was easy peasy, lemon squeezy. He's back there with Adam Prentice running RPOs with a fullback. Where do you think the ball's going? So he should be the guy, and I'm sure he will be in this offense, where he's the tight end motioning. He's the running back motioning out of the backfield into the slot. And all of a sudden the defense is like, we don't know what the hell's about to happen. Taysom lined up in the backfield. Now he's motioning to the slot. Now he's back in motion going across the, is he about to take a jet sweep? Is he about to take a handoff and then throw it? That's what we should be doing with Taysom. Is really doing some misdirection with him on the field, even when he doesn't get the ball. I've said this before, but if you want to see a good player, a good playmaker, a good offensive weapon, see what they do when they don't have the ball. And same with Taysom. Like, I want to see him moving around a ton, and I would count plays where he's in motion or moving around or whatever just as valuable as when he actually gets a touch.
Because if Derek Carr helps the offense look good, then it helps me look good.
Yeah.
We all in this together.
But I'm saying generally speaking, that's probably the hardest thing for most quarterbacks, because you're sitting here saying, "No, I'm the guy.
I'm the man.
I do not want to leave the field." Right?
Right.
I mean, look, we all feel that way, right?
Yeah.
But then when you all of a sudden look at the results, right, and the fact that you just love the guy.
Yeah.
You'd love the dude as a teammate, right? But you recognize the value that he brings and everything that he does. And so it's like, you know what? If this is going to help us get in the end zone more, then put him out there as much as you want.
Well, and even look how he helps the team, do whatever. When, like, against Tampa Bay, remember, he blocked the punt. He goes there and he blocks the punt. It's like, that turned the game around and we end up winning. So I'm like, all I know is not less snaps, more snaps. I mean, we're not.
He should get more snaps. The question is snaps versus touches.
What are we going to save him for until he's too old? I said, no. It sounds terrible, run him into the ground, but it's like, no, Taysom, you're playing a lot.
Think about in the last 50 years. Can you name another guy that did or has done what Taysom Hill has? He's in a special category.
Yeah, Taysom's big difference is that he plays like special teams and all that. Like, obviously, you can name a ton of players who ran the ball and threw the ball, but the fact that he also can play receiver and play special teams, like, yeah, he is in a, like, he's like in a Jim Thorpe category of players that were, 100 years ago who just played every position, punted, kicked, played, special teams, defense, everything. So, yeah, Taysom is in a totally unique category in that sense.
Yeah.
In the NFL.
Well, it's what makes it so difficult for defense is when Taysom Hill runs off of the sideline to go into the huddle, you don't know what position he's playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, you're trying to decipher what the package is based on the other personnel, but you don't know if Taysom's going in to play quarterback, to play running back, to play tight end, to play slot receiver. Like, you really don't know where he's going to line up. And based on lined up, you have to be like instantaneous with what the adjustment that you might be making as a defense.
And like I was saying, like, how unfortunate that last year he would line up at quarterback, but with a fullback in the backfield. I mean, think about how much easier that made it on the defense.
Or else you're out of position. And so that's the part that's a headache for a D coordinator, is you can dream up all this, the perfect defense, but if your guys can't communicate it well enough to be in position once they're out there and once the huddle breaks, and we prided ourselves on being very fast tempo. Hey, get everybody lined up. Boom, we're getting the ball snapped. If we catch you out of position, man, that just works to our advantage.
Where I would get Taysom involved if it was me is I would let him do things like screen passes. Like, I'd have him in there in packages where his job is to throw a screen to Alvin. Like, where Carr, it's not imperative that Carr is doing it over Taysom, but I would let Taysom do some packages like that. And then let him come out of the same package and do a Taysom quarterback power, or the same package with a Taysom rollout or something like that, where he's doing the easier throws, the higher efficiency throws, just to give the defense a bad look, just to get the defense a little confused. And then, boom, he dumps it off. Boom, it's a screen, whatever. So stuff like that, tight end screens, wide receiver screens. Again, I would have him motioning all over the place. I'd have him motioning out of the backfield into the slot and then coming across the field, jet sweeps, and then all of a sudden, boom, you fake a jet sweep, things like that. So that's what I would do. I would use him as so much misdirection, so many different ways. But like I said, a lot of that is him not even getting the ball, or a lot of that is him not getting the touches as much as it is just messing with the defense, is what my offensive strategy would be.
So no, there's nobody that's ever been like him in the NFL in history.
All right, the video just ended. Boom, there you go. The video just called it quits. All right, mid conversation. We'll take it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought about this interview with Drew Brees at Picklefest. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.